I'm Damian. That's Dio with his awesome Sailor Moon t-shirt, might I add.
Sailor Moon is fucking awesome.
And I'm actually glad they're re-releasing it.
But it's awesome.
They're re-releasing it, actually, in America without the censorship, which makes me very happy.
Also, we can talk about the college student that was in love with a high school student.
Yep, we can talk about the fact that Darian was, like 30 almost, and Sailor Moon was
Japanese
15. So, funny story about, I'll tell that story off air anyway, about Sailor Moon and Tuxedo Mask. And we also got to talk about the fact that, was it Pluto and what's the other one that are actually lovers and they're not cousins?
Got here. I was like, what cousins act like that? Like, even as a kid,
cousins.
I was like, this is not, like, I was very much in the Jay-Z. We don't believe you. You need more people. When I saw the thing about them being cousins, I was like, that just doesn't seem right.
That don't fly well. No, and it didn't fly well with me back then. It doesn't fly well now. So anyone who, and then that makes me realize about, the company who bought it over, Deke, the same people who worked with Sunbow, with G.I. Joe and such, and the censorship of anime cartoons brought over here, animes brought over here. It's like, really? Y'all that uptight? Y'all American audiences, y'all that uptight?
I mean, yeah. Like, so I remember
everything.
I remember when they first brought One Piece over here. So One Piece, I don't like One Piece. I think it's trash anime and a trash manga. A lot of people love it. It's just not for me. But I remember when they first debuted the anime over here. So that would have been mid 2000s. Mm-hmm. And you have a lot of characters that like smoke cigars and pipes and things like that. And there was one character in particular. So depending on which network you watched it on, he usually had a cigar in the original version, but they changed it to a candy cane.
Yes, a candy cane.
Randomly smoked. But then what I got to see was they just straight up edited everything out of his mouth, and he just had this random plume of smoke over here on the side of his face
while he opened his mouth,
and his mouth was just wide open the whole time. And it was just like, this is stupid. The kid, like, half the kids watching this shit smoke now. So, like, I don't know why y'all are.
Well, it's when you first see DBZ and they don't talk in the American translation. They don't talk about death. They always say the next dimension or something. And I'm what?
Dead. That boy is dead. His body.
That boy dead. Yamcha didn't go to another dimension. He died.
He killed the shit out of that man. Like, I remember as a kid, like, because we never said, "Oh yeah, he got sent to the next dimension." It was like, "Yo, Frieza killed his ass." I was like, "Yup, Frieza fucked him up bad." Because I was so I was like second grade using all of the 4-letter words in a full sentence.
Second grade, you started that early with the cuss words?
I started in first grade.
Oh goodness, Lord!
I had practice by the time I was in second grade.
I don't even remember when the first time I uttered a cuss word was.
Oh no, my mom swore like a sailor. I kept it under wraps until high school. That's when I just started cursing freely. Like, at that point, she cursed, I cursed. We were just like a cursing tag team. So
you're like the curse revival. So for all those who have just tuned in, just wanted to let you guys know, again, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, new episodes, myriad of topics depending on the day. Thank you for the people who have given a response to last Friday's crazy BS that we talked about. A lot of Damon doesn't know, a lot of cryptozoology, a lot of talk about period sex, which I've had to talk about with people after the show, which is hilarious. And just in general, thank you for your support so far, and we will continue to give you the best product we could possibly give you. Yeah. But as of right now, tonight's show is basically, it's going to be multiple parts. Talking about games that are so bad or considered bad, they're actually good, for one. And for two, there's a video game, I guess you can call it a video game, where you literally can have every single fighting character in a 2D sprite known to man thrown in there for good measure, called Mugen. And we will discuss that too, because it kind of fits under the motif of it's crazy and it makes no sense, but it's still fun.
Yeah.
And yes, Eugene, I'm glad you started cussing in preschool. Some of us didn't have that kind of, fortuitous nature to be able to do that. Oh, okay. So Eugene,
we don't talk about that. Nope.
No. The game. He's talking about the game.
Even the game. I tried with the game too. It was bad. It wasn't even like it was so bad it was good. It was bad, meaning not good.
So for those who aren't in the chat, Eugene, even though Dio, cover your ears, Dio, mentioned X-Men Origins Wolverine, which we have talked about is a really bad movie. Mm-hmm. But also the game, I forgot about the game. And to be quite honest, from what I remember, people were reviewing it rather favorably. And yes, it was better than the movie, but that's not saying much.
Right. And that's why people reviewed the shit well, because it was better than the movie. Had it not had a trash ass movie, the game wouldn't have gotten as high marks as it did.
I see what you did there.
There you go.
Hey.
But
shout out to Kat.
Yes, but no, the movie was horrendous. Like one scene in particular just always sticks out, and that's the when he's slicing at the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
It was like one slice, the rest of the shit would have just went through your whole body.
Yep.
Dickhead. Fucking terrible. But anyway, the video game wasn't all that good either.
Right. I've never played it. There's a lot of, usually the direct translations to movies are not really good in terms of video games. Captain America, Thor spring to mind as really cruddy translations just because they have the licensing. Usually video game licensed movies or video game based on movies aren't really good. So that's what I'm going to lead off with. And my first contribution, because I went back to play this actually today to get ready for the show, was E.T. for the Atari 2600. Now, E.T., the movie, I saw it when I was in college. I never saw it as a kid. Hated the movie. Yeah.
Sir.
I thought it was corny, man. I thought that movie was corny. E.T. need to phone home and get a cell phone. I don't understand. No.
Sir. No.
What deal? What?
No, that is one where it's just like, nah, I cannot let that abide. that is a terrible.
Wait, you like E.T. the movie?
Hell yeah. Love E.T. the movie. I love I love extraterrestrial movies and shit. So right. Also, Steven Spielberg.
Mm-hmm.
Cinematographer. So for me, as a photographer and videographer, that shit was shot amazingly. The practical effects that they used as well were amazing. Were they do they hold up to now? No, but for the time, that looked amazing.
I'll agree to disagree.
You are wrong. Your opinion is bad and you should feel bad.
Well, I don't feel bad, but again, maybe because I saw it in 2003 when they re-released it.
That's the first time you saw it?
Yeah, I saw it in college.
Then you can't grade it. You cannot grade it. Just like how I talk about like certain wrestlers only work in a certain time period. Same thing with the movies. If you didn't see it at the time, then of course, if I go back and watch pick a movie that is like Gone with the Wind, which is considered a classic. It's a trash movie.
Yeah.
But if you didn't see it, like people that rave about it, like saw this shit back then. Like it was something for its time period. It doesn't hold up, just like the song of the South doesn't fucking hold up these days.
We talked that song. We talked about a couple of weeks ago. No. Yeah, no.
But no, that one I'm going to wholeheartedly disagree with you that it's a bad movie. I will say, if like hindsight now, it's not that great. it's, as Eugene said, it's a mid movie, and like using today's criteria, yes, it is a mid movie. Using 1980s to like 1992, it was fucking amazing.
For the time frame, probably. But
See?
again, like you said, with Gone with the Wind, mofos were loving that back in 1945 or whatever the hell year it was released in. So, period, time. That's kind of how it works. But yeah, no, not a good movie. The video game almost brought about pretty much the defeat of the video game industry back in the 80s. Landfills were involved, mass production, rushing it out for the Christmas holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Mofos that Atari got greedy, and we almost lost video games forever because that movie the game underperformed. It wasn't the greatest, but for some reason, maybe because I have nostalgic rose-colored glasses on,
yes, you
I could still play that game and thoroughly enjoy the playing of it. That's just me.
I can't. I can play Pong.
Oh no!
What? Listen, I'm a tennis guy, so like I can sit there and watch tennis like all day long. So like I can play Pong all day long. Mario Tennis,
hey, see what
all day long. Like I can play. That's it. I can watch that stuff all day. Pong. Its greatness is in its simplicity. That's it. Like you can have, because everybody's on a level playing field. There is no special tricks to it. It just is what it is. You just have to understand trajectories and make sure you crank that shit properly and you're good to go. But like, yeah, no, like that is that game was horrifyingly bad.
So I wrote some notes down while playing it so I could just let people know. So you control the extraterrestrial ET, and you, like the movie, have to go home. So now here is where I started to realize even video games back then had product placement, because you had to collect 7 Reese's Pieces in every single board. So to commemorate, there you go. I got my 7 Reese's Pieces in my hand right now. Product placement. So Reese's, if you're watching, sponsorship. And then you had to collect 3 phone pieces so he could phone home, right? Because ET phone home, little finger thing. And then you could meet up with Elliot, and then he could give you some power-ups. And it was so creepy because if you play the 2600, Elliot's running across the screen and he falls, almost collides into ET, and then they become one person. So great. And people thought that was great graphics. But the cool
graphics that we had.
Well, some of the ports of, let's say, Pac-Man from the arcades to the 2600. Yeesh.
Yeah, man.
Or the ColecoVision, or the Donkey Kong ColecoVision, which shout out to my grandma, because that was the first video game system I would go over to her house and I would play, was the ColecoVision. So you had to do this in ET while avoiding the FBI and the doctors looking to experiment on ET. And there were little Easter eggs, which I did not know back in 1982 or whatever. You could actually find Easter eggs in a video game. So if you found certain things or certain items, you'd get a Yars from Yars Revenge. If you've played Yars Revenge on the Atari, it's basically a shooter where you try to shoot out the middle of an alien spacecraft. So the Yars is like it's basically a fly airship. And you can find it in the ET game, which I did not know. And then the creator had a couple of there was like a Temple of Doom idol you could find in one of the wells, which I didn't know either. So all in all, and every board is the same. It's just the enemies get more and more severe as you go along. Would I play it after today?
No.
If I'm drunk, maybe, but
terrible.
I don't think I would want to physically go play E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
No. And no, so like the whole Easter egg thing, that's been around since before TV, honestly. There's always been, because like now we call them Easter eggs. Before they were called homages. And homages have been around since like forever and 6 days ago. So like anything that you see, like any old, like go back and read like old comic strips and stuff, there's always references to other works that came before them. So yeah, like they from the get-go, there's always been the moment that they started to code, people started leaving messages and Easter eggs, if you will,
Right.
for the next person that came along that read the coding for them. So like, I mean, hell, that's how we got leet speak, which then that was like the ground floor for like LOL and LMFAO and all that stuff that we use now. So yeah,
Leak speak.
leet speak, as in, so it's 733T if I remember correctly. Leet speak. Let me see.
Sounds like what Elon Musk tried to name his kid.
Leet speak. No, so it was 1337, and basically that was using numbers to, like, that's when you started seeing people use like numbers for in the place of letters. So like the number that looks like the letter, that's what you use. But like initially it was coding and like in programming that people use to like, I guess you say like the best way to describe it would be like hacking and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was like leaving like a breadcrumb trail so you can see and leave messages for people that somebody that's not familiar with computer coding would just think it's part of the code. Mm-hmm. So you had that, but then that led, once like social media, the infant stages of social media. So like when you started seeing like noob as N00B back in the day,
mm-hmm.
and owned and pwned and all those things. Yeah, that is all comes from that
all that cornball pwned and whatnot. Like,
yeah.
I just. So here's another game. Now that we're talking about this kind of stuff, I don't know if I would play it. You know what? I would play it. Sonic R.
What the fuck is that?
Sonic Racing for the Sega Saturn. It was supposed to be their version of Mario Kart.
Yep.
It controlled horribly.
Yep.
Soundtrack was banging.
All
sleep on the soundtrack.
With all things Sega, like Sega has always had banging soundtracks.
That's a good point. Why is it that Sega's always known for the banging soundtracks?
I think because they had more. Well, so creative wise, they tended to go with more creative people as far as like composers and stuff were, but also because the SNES was how many bit? 16.
Mm-hmm. They both were.
No,
the Mega Drive and Super Nintendo were 16.
Right, but then there was the 32-bit version that came out. The extension, I guess you'd say,
32X.
The 32X that came after the fact, which like that's when you saw like a dramatic change, where it was like super crazy housey music that was like really dope. But yeah, they just worked with better. I shouldn't say better people, but they worked with more like creative people that were able to fit things more onto the cartridge than with Nintendo. So like, for instance, like if you go back and like look at like how Nintendo used to make sounds, they would use the same sound 6 different ways. Right? So like the music that they would use, they would then speed it up real quick. And then they would use that noise for like when you grab the flag, when you jumped off and you grab the pole for the flag. It's the same, it's the exact same sound, just sped up. So yeah, so like a lot of the stuff, like when you listen to all things in video games, especially on cartridges, it's repetitive. But the loop on SNES games tends to be a lot shorter than it is on Sega games. Also, Sega had a terrible controller. Fucking bad.
Oh yeah, that 3-button plastic. Don't even get me started.
I had the metal. So like my uncle bought his Sega Genesis when he blew out his knee, so he needed something to play while he was just sitting in bed all the time. So he played that, And he was like, yeah, I can't do this controller bullshit. So he went and got the fucking pad with the joystick knob with the big, it was like heavy, it was metal, and it had like the really nice clicky buttons. Oh, that was the best fucking thing. So like,
was that a third party controller?
No, it was a Sega controller.
Okay.
So
because I remember having the Street Fighter Champion Edition 6-button controller for the Genesis.
Let me see. Was it, or it might have actually been another? I know it might have actually been a different company, because Sega would have surprised. Sega would have had that shit be plastic. This is it right here. Yep, because it had a turbo control on it.
Was it by Sega or Mad Catz?
It was by ASCIIware. So this is way before Mad Catz.
Oh, I remember them. Oh, I remember ASCIIware.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, I do remember this. Yes.
Yeah. That bad boy was for me the best controller that I ever had, because it was so goddamn durable. Like it was heavy and it was metal. Like the shit was like, it was great. It was just fucking great. It was like the cord was heavy duty as well. So like that was one of the things that we had issues with. So for those of you that have only grown up on wireless controllers or have gotten used to it, we used to have corded controllers. And after a certain amount of time that you have them, the plastic gets kind of brittle. It'll start to break. If you're like wrapping the cord around the controller a lot, then the wires on the inside will start to mess up. So yeah, like it was bit of a nightmare.
Just looking at it from an old school perspective, that just makes me see how glorious our gaming ages were, kind of how, and I'll say it, gamers now are spoiled. They are spoiled.
No, that's no two ways about it. They are spoiled. One, for the simple fact that they have like such incredible graphics, but like, so back in the day, I hate that I say that now, but back when we first started playing video games in our homes. So for me, my first was a NES that a neighbor gave to us when they moved.
Nice.
Then we got a Super Nintendo. That was the first thing that my mom actually bought me. My dad bought it for me, I think. One of the two. Anyhow, had that. And a lot of the games, there was no space to save on the game, right? So you would end up having to either remember or keep a fucking journal full of codes. Password journals. So if I got to level 7 I get to level 7, I have to write down one code. But if I got to level 7 and I still have all my lives, that's a different code.
Another code.
Right? Mega Man was like fucking infamous for this shit. If I got crazy far and like, there was one time I played the game and I got everybody. I had every fucking weapon, every fucking power possible. And like that code looked completely different from when I only had half of those things. So like you constantly had to write down. Like if you got, like now when you like think of like codes that you put into the stuff, we used to have to like memorize like complex button inputs to get shit done.
Well, remember the Konami code. Like that is our ancestors' cheat code. And I still couldn't beat Contra. I don't even like that game.
Contra, Contra was one of those ones. I only beat it when I had friends playing as well. But like
only when you had friends. So
only when I had friends. There was no way that like I could not beat the shit. Like even when you had all those good fucking lives, I'd still end up dying. Losing all them shits. Like it just is what it is. And there were a bunch of games like that back in the day. Like I'll look back fondly on them, but they were insanely hard. Like all of the Star Wars games that were on Super Nintendo were disturbingly hard. The Lion King game on SNES, impossibly hard. The Aladdin game on Sega and SNES, like it was nearly impossible to beat. You have to be like one of these pro level speed runners that you see on YouTube in order to get it. And it's like your regular person's not going to get this shit. So yeah, because remember back in the day, like if you put out a movie from a big studio that was for kids, you had to come up with a video game with it as well.
Yes.
And like some of them were cool, some of them not so much. I remember when Cool World came out.
I remember it on Game Informer. It was on the front and back cover.
Yeah.
For Super Nintendo.
Super Nintendo. And I played that just because of the girl. That was it. Just
Hollywood.
Yeah, she was. Listen. Whew. Yeah.
Hollywood or Jessica Rabbit?
Hollywood. So like, cause like Jessica Rabbit was like too reserved, I guess would be the best way to say it. Like, cause it's like, I shouldn't say like when I say reserved, it was like, she wasn't like vibrant. That's the best way to say it. She was the very, stilted type person, like always sensual, but Hollywood was dancing and was like, yeah, and thick. So yeah, I mean, both of them were, but still.
Look,
like,
man, all I know is that Gabriel Byrne, I think it's Gabriel Byrne, had sex with a cartoon.
Yeah,
like that's the easiest thing I could say is they showed a human having sex with a toon.
Yep.
What? The
90s were fucking was. Yeah. If you like, it's a weird period of time. Like that, if you didn't grow up in it, it's hard to explain because the 90s was the shift from analog to digital. Like this, that was the last days of analog to everything being digital. Like literally within a decade, you saw cell phones only being a thing that the most rich of rich could afford, to everybody having a fucking cell phone by the end of the decade, basically.
Of course.
So like it was a weird shift in seeing and growing up during this period of time, because like so much stuff was able to pass under the radar or pass under the watchful eye of, the MPAA or whatever, because it was new. So they were like, what? Kid, doesn't matter. It's a kid's game. Cool. All video games are for kids. No. Play Pit Fighter one time.
Ooh, you know what? That's another one. You actually took the words out of my mouth
very quickly that the video games were not all for kids.
Yeah, Pit Fighter was one of those. When I saw it in the arcade, I played the hell out of it.
Yeah.
But when you play it back at home,
it didn't work. Like, so we talked about like the cabinets on video games back in the 80s and 90s. And like they weren't just 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit. Like they had they had the memory space to have like crazy graphics, right? Like Pit Fighter in the arcade damn near looked like two people duking it out. Like I remember when I first saw it, I was like, what is this? What is this violent nonsense going on in this at the time would have been one of the mini golf places was where they had this one. But yeah, Pit Fighter, because Pit Fighter came out before Mortal Kombat, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So like Pit Fighter, I think there might have been like one or two others that came out around the similar time that were using real pictures of people,
digitized
graphics, right? And like looking at it now, it's fucking dog shit. But back then, listen.
Like we're talking about this, and I'm thinking back to last week's episode about beat 'em ups. And I don't know if there was ever a digitized beat 'em up.
I think there was. Yeah.
Was there?
There was, but a lot of them ended up being on like the Sega CD and things like that. Because
Night Trap.
Right, because they had like one of the games that I like, a lot of people are like it's trash, was the Castlevania, the movie video game that was on SNES and Sega Genesis. Terrible hitboxes, so many characters that were not in the fucking movie or in the fucking book. Which one of the things in the 90s for video games is you would have like characters that artists came up with, and they would just kind of be stockpiled, and they would just get thrown into things because they needed an enemy, right? They just needed something. So, oh yeah, cool, we got this. Boom, we'll use this character that looks like it should fit. So like you had all of these things that made no fucking sense in these video games. I can go back and play the shit, and I think it's great. But it's nostalgia's sake. It was great. Like looking at it from like 2020 eyes, like what the fuck is this shit? The other thing about like the digitized graphics were like they would just get like Joe Schmo from like Bally Total Fitness and just throw him in there and be like, all right, now throw a punch. Like looking at like videos from like I did that last year. I looked at like Pit Fighter videos, and it was like, oh yeah, they just picked like some black dude from a gym. Looks like they might have got a dude from outside the VA as the soldier. They just got an Asian dude just to be the Bruce Lee stereotype in the thing. Like, yeah, it was bad.
And that's another game that doesn't age well now, that even though we were amped as kids to play it, was the first Mortal Kombat, especially for the Super Nintendo, where they didn't have the blood code, and you had the
brown,
the more tame fatalities.
The more tame fatalities, but still like you punch somebody in the face and like diarrhea came out their mouth, as opposed to
literal diarrhea mouth. Yeah,
it was just like straight up just red, and I'm like, or not red, but just brown. And I was like, what is this? What is this?
What is that in your glass there, sir?
That's water.
Okay.
Oh, I got drunk and high earlier today, so I was like, all right, no, trying to come down. Plus, don't want to wake up with a hangover or anything of that nature tomorrow, because I have a remote work tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know every time we go on air, we talk about the fact that we've either drank way too much during this epidemic, or it's like, we're either tipsy or otherwise. It's like, no.
Yep.
So as we continue to talk here on Damian and DEO here on YouTube as well as Anchor.fm, for me, I'm gonna go console by console. So for me, I can still play it even though it's not good. E.T. for Atari. Now we move over to Nintendo Entertainment System. Somebody bought. I was Trophy that bought on Friday the 13th, the original Friday the 13th. I've played it a few times. I'm not a fan of it. What I will say, Bad Dudes, I thought was a really bad game because we had Double Dragon. So we had two bad dudes rescuing the president.
Yeah.
It's bad, but people swear by it. Super Nintendo, I would say NCAA basketball, because it was the only collegiate basketball game we had for Super Nintendo. And back then I was a big March Madness fan. So yeah, I bought that game and I thought it was awesome. And then when I play it now, I think, no, I needed better things to do with my life than be playing this game. Sega Genesis, Kid Chameleon. Didn't like it, but people think it's good. That's just me. Sega Saturn, Bug. If you ever played the game Bug.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Yeah, it's their version of a 3D, almost like Mario 64 before its time.
Ooh, I got something for you.
Go ahead.
Okay, so games. I'm gonna go with games that I like that other people are like, "Oh, that shit is trash." Joe and Mac on the Super Nintendo. Yeah, so typical side scroller. I guess you could call it a beat 'em up.
Mixed with Toe Jam and Earl elements, I
Toe
guess.
Jam and Earl elements.
Mm-hmm.
Toe Jam and Earl was one that a lot of people liked that I did not like.
I didn't like.
I didn't like Battletoads just because it was so fucking hard.
Fuck that board. That one board. Fuck that board.
That one board specifically, bruh. If ever there was a thing to keep me away from like wanting a hover car or hovercraft of any type, that would be it. Fuck that game. Fuck that board and fuck hover everything. There was it was called Balls.
BLLZ. Mm-hmm.
Balls, the fighting game. That to me, so like somebody gave that to me for my birthday. I don't know who it was. Shit was amazing to me because like it was 3D. It was not 3D. It was it was 16-bit things shaded to look like they were 3D. And literally it was just balls. So it would just be like it would look like a stick figure made out of like little small balls. Like there was like the boss was like a fucking Tyrannosaurus Rex made out of balls. It was stupid, but I fucking
was that before or after Clay Fighter?
I think that was right around the same time as Clay Fighter. Clay Fighter is another one that I still fucking love, just for the sheer ridiculousness of it.
Mr. Frosty.
Mad Mr. Frosty. You say that now, it sounds like somebody that like goes to Juggalo concerts all the time. Clay Fighter. So Clay Fighter was first, 1993.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Fucking Clay Fighter. Damn.
There's a blast from the past.
There's a blast from the past. What was that? Some other games that people read that like hated, but I love it. There was a game on Super Nintendo. It might have been on Sega. So because there was a lot of shit that was, if it was on Super Nintendo, there's a good chance it was on Sega Genesis as well, unless it was a Sega company game. So like Sonic the Hedgehog was a Sega company game. What was this called?
David Robinson basketball is another one that comes to mind when you say Sega company game. Tommy Lasorda baseball, Joe Montana football. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
there was football before Madden, everybody. In case you didn't know that, there were football games before John Madden football.
Yep, Tecmo Bowl. But like, yeah, EVO, Search of Eden, was the game that I fucking loved as a kid. So like it had RPG elements, but it was a side-scrolling style game as well. Okay. You start off as an animal, and as you eat other things, then you gain more points. You can evolve. So you can add a fin, like a dorsal fin to your body that will help you swim faster in water. You'll change your tail from just being like looking like a, bass tail to looking like a shark tail. So you can move faster through the water, upgrade your teeth. You can get legs. You can get and you can do all these things as you accrue points and such. So yeah, that was something that I fucking loved just because it was like I was a fucking nerd. So of course I loved anything that had to do with like adding shit. So yeah.
Well, yeah, it's an RPG, so you're going to do add-ons because it's a role-playing game.
Yeah.
Or, whenever you say shark's fins, it makes me think about Deep Blue Sea and fucking LL Cool J.
My hat is like a shark's fin.
Yeah. Deepest, bluest, my head is like a shark's fin. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to think what else on the ultimate. I'm not playing it under any circumstances. Superman 64, and yes, Eugene, Kobe Bryant courtside, trash.
Yeah.
But I am never.
Damn, like these kids really don't understand how good they got it, because everything doesn't get turned into a video game these days. But as you were saying, yeah.
Superman 64,
basura.
No. I worked at Funko Land when that came out, and I'll tell you, whenever I did inventory at the end of the night, I counted at least 50 to 60 N64 Superman games. And whenever someone wanted to come in because the price list had it at like $2, I would often say, save the $2, invest that in a better game.
Yeah. Nah, like you guys don't, I mean, they still do this to a degree, not nearly as like it doesn't get much fanfare like it did before, and they can do the shit cheap now. But like back in the day, any game, anytime there was a video, a movie, or once something got to be very popular, they had to have a video game for it. Had to. And like more often than not, these things were, so like take for instance like Power Rangers, right? So for those of you that don't know, Power Rangers is not an American thing. It isn't. Super Sentai Warriors, Super Sentai is like a whole genre that's been in Japan since like the 1960s, probably 60s, 70s. And that is the whole team, masked super team thing, right? So like when we got Power Rangers over here, that shit came out in the 80s over there. So like a lot of the games that we had were just ports. They just took the stuff and they just had to change the background for, instead of it being like some random town in Japan, they had to change it to Angel Grove, USA, wherever the fuck that was. I guess that was, what was it?
That must have been California.
It has to be California, yeah. So you had that, but anytime so when something got popular over here, they would rush to have that. With a lot of these games like that, the Gundam things and such, those games already existed. So all you had to do was just port them over and do the translations. You didn't have that same thing with a lot of the shit that was American based. So you had they were scrounging trying to fucking get game development to happen, and the games were fucking bad. So many of them were so bad because they were haphazardly put together. There were, now if a game comes out and there's an issue on day one, it's usually fixed within the next day or two, right? No, it wasn't that. If a game came out flawed, that's it.
Oh yeah, we didn't have patches.
There was no patching. There was no patching whatsoever. If a character was broken, a character was broken. If there was a game-killing glitch, it was a game-killing glitch, and you just had that was the end of the game if you got to it. So yeah.
There's one game in particular when we talk about game-killing glitches, and we talked about it off air. It doesn't really qualify as a bad game. It's subjective, and that's Mugen. And we talked off air about Mugen. And for those who don't know what Mugen is, it is essentially a fighting game engine where you can take any fighting game character. Now, when I remember it, it was you could take any 2D sprite, throw it in a game from any past fighting game, or even make your own 2D sprite fighting character and throw it in this fighting game engine. And it's literally a battle royale, essentially, of a who's who. You could literally have Ronald McDonald fighting Peter Griffin or Vegeta fighting Mario when he's like one of the small Mario bros. Yeah. So, and the supers, and this is what I love programmers. I love programmers because their minds to say, what kind of super move am I going to give this tiny eensy beensy character or this random non-fighting game character like a Ronald McDonald, like a chicken from Family Guy? And then you make this ingenuitive stuff where you're thinking, man, listen, if more people did stuff in real life as opposed to just doing stuff for gaming, off the cuff, right? Imagine where we'd be. So we were talking off air about just characters from that game where they're one broken and two, you like them. And you mentioned Evil Ken, Violent Ken, depending on who.
No, this is Evil Ken because this is a solid decade before Evil Ken before Violent Ken became a thing.
Okay.
So for those of you that don't know, like give a little bit more history. So the word Mugen is Japanese for infinite, right? So if you watch Samurai,
kids.
if you watch Samurai Champloo, that was in an episode.
One of the best
Character's name is
RPGs ever
Mugen.
made.
Yes, one of the best ever. Character's name is Mugen. They said to sign his name, and he drew the infinity symbol. Any of you that went to school with a Karen probably saw a couple infinity tattoos. So, at any rate, so Evil Ken, I got into playing Mugen after Capcom versus SNK 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right, cool, everything's fine, blah, blah, blah. I got pretty decent with a couple characters. And like, at one point, I probably had 400 characters.
Holy shit.
Oh, yeah, no, like I was an addict. It was bad. I had to have it. But like that's tame compared to some people. Like I remember there were screens with people where the character profile art was so small, was like they had so many characters that you couldn't actually see where it was. Like people could, like, you would just scroll over and it would take forever. Like they had thousands of characters. So basically what happened with Mugen was initially it started with them porting over characters from Street Fighter Alpha.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the first one that I remember where it was like you saw a bunch of the characters. Then you got the
X-Men versus Street Fighter.
X-Men versus Street Fighter characters. All of the SNK stuff, whether it be Samurai Showdown, you had some of the other, was that SNK? Last Blade? I'm not sure if that was.
Yes, that was SNK.
Last Blade, King of
Fatal
Fighters,
Fury.
Fatal Fury. Hell, you had Streets of Rage characters that people put into there as well. You had anything that was on a cartridge, basically. Usually, you had that. People would rip it from the cartridge and then do the coding, and that was the thing. All of these people had to do the coding like from scratch. There was no, oh yeah, I'm just gonna just take it from the cartridge and just put. Nah, they had to do this shit from scratch, and that's when the innovation started to happen. People started to remix characters and create their own characters. Like you had folks that like were working, like sprite by sprite, coming up with their own character that they edited. Back in the days of like. It was like a million different Shotokan clone characters. Everybody was a Ryu or Ken, knockoff.
What were the World Heroes ones? Was it Fuma?
No, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about like in Mugen, people were just so they would take take the body and like change the head to something that they created. Right. So like with a lot of the stuff that you saw, it wasn't very original. And then so you already had evil Ryu in the video games, right? But Ken didn't have a counterpart. No. So somebody took it upon themselves to be like, all right, we're going to remedy this. So Evil Ken was created. This was an actual demon. The coding that it had on it was damn near impossible to beat. The moves were insanely powerful. It was insanely fast. The AI seemed to be intuitive, which should not be a thing for being, because like you would just get hit all the time. You were just consistently getting hit. So yeah, that was like the first time that I saw, oh shit, there's like legit coding going into this. And once that happened, then you started to see more and more people get into that stuff. And a good amount of these people that coded these characters eventually went on to make their own games and things of that nature. So the legacy of Mugen is an interesting one, but like now a lot of folks look at it as like a joke because, you mostly people download it for like the bullshit characters, the Family Guy, Peter Griffin, and the chicken, so that you can actually have a beat 'em up, a straight up fight between the two of them.
There actually are side scrollers now based on the Mugen engine.
Yeah.
So it's like,
And like
it was one with Streets Fighters of Rage where you had Ryu and Ken. Somebody got killed. I think they were trying to avenge someone's death in the Street Fighter universe, and it wound up Dan is the first boss. It's weird.
Yeah, it was a mess, but it was a fucking weird time. Going back and like thinking about the stuff that we used to have back in the day, because like we had so much great shit and so much trash.
Just remember what's that game? Oh my god, I can't believe I'm blanking on it. Oregon Trail. I fucking love Oregon Trail. Like, it's frustrating as hell. But so here's the thing. Fuck. I keep reminding myself of like how old we are now. Cause like, fuck it. I'll go with it.
No, like you have this right here, right? This is more powerful than the entire computer lab that we used to have back in the 90s.
Yes.
And like most of y'all don't fucking know what computer lab was. So back in the day, in like the early 90s, early to mid 90s, you would have computer lab time. So there was it was one room that you would go to. It was just like going to PE or going to art or what have you. You had to go to computer lab, and you did that every day. So you'd have to do your math. One day you do math. One day you do phonics. One day science, blah, blah, blah.
Wow,
Friday, phonics. And some of y'all fucking need phonics right now. But anyhow, and then on Fridays was a free day. So you could play games on the computers. And Oregon Trail was like the one that we'd always fucking go for, because you only had like a couple like racing game things and shit like that. But like Oregon Trail was like the only like long form game that you could play. So like I fucking got into that shit heavy because it was something different at the time.
Have you ever beat it?
No, I don't think. There's probably like only one or two people in the fucking world that have beat that shit. Everybody dies of dysentery.
You know,
but it's an accurate depiction of the fucking time, though.
Well,
that's the dope thing about the shit. Like every time I see these dumbasses being like, "Oh, well, what happened before we had doctors? We died at the age 18 because we stubbed our toe on a fucking rock outside." The fuck?
Everything killed us.
Everything killed us. We are soft creatures compared to every other fucking thing in the fucking world. We are not equipped to do anything.
In terms of self-sufficiency.
Right. Like we get attacked by a fucking bear, we're dead. We get attacked by a mountain lion, we are dead. We get attacked by a wolf, we are dead. We get attacked by a fucking Wolverine, we are dead. We get attacked by a moose, dead. Deer, dead. Fucking...
In other words, dead.
Dead. Like most things that attack us, if it wants to kill us, we are going to die because we have no natural weapons. Like... These things, our nails can't scratch shit. It's not going to do any fucking thing. Our teeth are not equipped to bite and tear off flesh and things like that. We are not equipped to do anything. We had to come up with techniques in order to defend ourselves against ourselves. And we can barely use those against fucking animals. So, yeah, anytime I see
Oregon Trail, we wouldn't have survived.
We wouldn't have survived because, like, if you don't have, whatever, you're gonna fucking die of dysentery. So and so fucking got shot with an arrow. Well, that motherfucker's dead.
He got shot in the kneecap. He died.
He died. Right. Like there's I
remember I've never beaten it. I think I've played it twice in my life, but I remember I went to a video game museum in Austin, Texas. And I'll never forget this because I got caught up in watching someone else play, like back in the arcade days. So this person was playing it, and first off, they got to boards and levels I didn't know existed. The hunting level, where you actually got to shoot the big game, for food and for pelts to sell. Again, I didn't know that existed. But the thing that catches my eye when I was watching this playthrough was one of the characters, of your village that travels with you. You get to name, some of the people. One of them was named John Cena.
Yeah.
So John Cena is a part of this group that is trying to navigate the Oregon Trail.
And we never saw him in the video game either.
No, we never saw him, but
See?
he did not die of dysentery. He did not die of dysentery. He died of a broken leg.
Yeah. Which is a thing. Like, people, that's the dopest thing about the game is because, and that was what like a lot of so my social studies teacher back in the day was like super into like, history. And like, he used to talk about like how it's super realistic and like, yeah, like if you broke your leg, that's it. Like if you get a compound fracture and you bleed and you can't stop the bleeding, you're dead. Like movies and TVs have got y'all fooled. Like, oh yeah, I can get shot. I can get shot with buckshot and I'm gonna be okay. No, you get shot in the leg, that shit gets infected, gangrene sets in, it goes into your bloodstream, you die. Like that's it. You get bit by a mosquito. You don't have a malaria vaccination, you die. Like if you get like rule of thumb, if you get pierced anywhere center of mass, very high chance that you die.
In real life.
Right?
Okay, not the game, real life.
No, even in the fucking game. If you fall and you break something, you get stabbed with something, or you fall and break a rib and it tears through an organ, you are done. Finito. Okay. You don't come back from this shit. It's not like the fucking movies where you go pass out and then you wake up 6 days later. No, something would have ate your body by then.
What's the line you used? They have you fooled.
Yeah,
movies have you fooled.
Yeah, this is. Yeah, but Oregon Trail, fucking fantastic game. I would like them to turn that into a full-fledged video game, though. They kind of did with Red Dead Redemption, though, actually.
Yeah, I could
fantastic.
see that.
Red Dead Redemption 2 is fucking amazing. Like, storytelling.
Is that where his son takes over?
No. Completely different character. No. I don't want to give spoilers for it. Certain characters from the first are in the second one as well, but it is one of the best stories that I've played in a video game. Soundtrack's good too. D'Angelo is randomly on it.
He's still around?
Hey, fucking D'Angelo's forever.
On the Red Dead Redemption soundtrack,
on the D'Angelo. And it was one
not
of
about brown sugar.
Nope, wasn't about heroin. So like, we're gonna call it what it is, bro. He wasn't singing about a woman. That man was.
I know he wasn't.
He was singing about that narcotic. But so like playing the game, everything's cool. I'm riding my horse through the fucking wilderness and shit, and I'm like, this voice sounds familiar. That's singing because it's a super long cutscene. I'm like, it's fucking D'Angelo. Looked it up. Sure enough, D'Angelo.
Wow.
Mister, how does it feel?
Thank you. I was trying to remember what the other song was.
It was How Does It Feel? Is what that song is called, but everybody calls it How Does It Feel?
Yeah, wasn't it called Untitled? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. It's just
games that we fucking have back in the day that were great.
Yeah, like I'm trying to okay, so before we get out of here, I'm just gonna say one game that you cannot get me to play on one series. You can't get me to play.
Mm-hmm.
Call of Duty.
Yeah, no, it's not for me. I don't like
Warfare. I know you love it. I know you like that game. I've watched you play that game. Don't care. Don't give two shits.
I can't do war porn. It's not my thing. Especially when like the antagonists are brown people. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm tired of seeing it. So I don't want to give that money. So yeah, like any of the like real gory like pro military war porn shit. I don't even like Gears of War that much. Like Halo, I kind of dug for a little bit, but like for the most part, I didn't like most of the shit. Like it was most of the stuff was lame to me. So
I can't. You couldn't pay me to play that game or that whole series. Just I'm not interested. I've never been to first person shooters anyway. That's not my thing. The first FPS I ever played, I think, might have been, if we count Terminator 2 Judgment Day in the arcades, or Revolution X with Aerosmith and Steven Tyler saying "Don't give up" every time you died.
Oh, wow!
I went there.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that shit. Oh, there was a game that had like a first person vantage point like that as one of the fucking levels, and I cannot forget it. Saved my life.
I know the Punisher had that.
There was one. No, this was a I forgot. But in here, another game I loved, Road Rash 1, 2, and 3. Fucking love them shits.
For which system?
Sega.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sega was pretty good for racing games.
Yeah, Road Rash.
Aside from Mario Kart. Yeah.
Road Rash was fucking amazing because like you could fucking use weapons. So like I got fucking really good at timing shit. So like I would get to like third place or whatever, and I wouldn't use the weapon the whole time. And I would just like my favorite was a crowbar. And I would get right next to him, go around the corner and accelerate more than they did, and then just swing back. Plink, and then you just see them fly off the bike. That was my fucking pleasure when I was a kid.
That was it. That was a guilty pleasure for you, just beating the crap out of people with a crowbar.
Crowbar, chains, fucking nunchucks. And if you got really good, if they swung and you swung at the same time, you could take their weapon from them. So like I got good at catching a crowbar and then immediately smack it back and throw them off.
When I remember games like that, I remember pumping in a whole bunch of quarters into Road Blaster in the arcades, or Spy Hunter, which I remember The Rock was trying to make a Spy Hunter movie. I don't know if it came out or not, but
it did. It was no.
No,
it was.
I wouldn't think it would have done well.
It was by The Rock. It was 2000 and the fuck did this shit come out? Spy Hunter.
Not a good game.
Spy Hunter, Nowhere to Run. No. Wait. Pop culture. Film adaptation and something. Yeah. So it didn't come out, I don't think. Yeah, production was halted. But they still put out a video game for it. See, this is what we're talking about. Anytime you had anything big, you always had to have a video game that went along with it. Most of the time, the video games are trash because they are rushed. No real thought put into them.
To coincide with the movie.
To coincide with the movie, because they don't have. They're making the game without the actual movie script, and that's what you saw with a lot of stuff in the 90s and early 2000s, because you're still in that range where properties were not being shared with each other.
Oh, and one last one that just came to mind as we're talking, because I thought about Revolution X. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker is very problematic on so many levels. If you've ever played the arcade or the Sega version, basically he's rescuing kidnapped children.
Yep.
And we're going to leave it at that, because Michael Jackson was saving kidnapped children from a mad scientist.
Yeah.
And he turned into a robot.
And like even the whole Michael, that's a fucking. We're gonna have to have another episode about that one day, about the complex issues and why there's a difference between like him and say an R. Kelly.
Oh yeah, that might be a Friday episode.
That's absolutely a Friday episode. Definitely something, because like I have mixed feelings, and me being from the legal standpoint, my viewpoint on it is way different than other people's is, because I've met some of the lawyers that were on the lawsuits, and I know more of the details about the lawsuits now that stuff is free for the public to see. And it's like, ooh, this paints a very weird, murky picture that we did not know
We did
before we started, you know, making accusations and, you know, jokes and things of that nature. But yeah, problematic as fuck. But damn, it's a fucking fun game.
Well, here's the thing: like that game, the first time I played it, I went to an arcade and I didn't know. I knew what it was, but I had never played it for the Genesis.
Mhm.
So when I hit the super button and I saw him do his smooth criminal dance to wipe out all the enemies on screen, I thought, why didn't I play this when I was a teenager? But then I realized Michael Jackson is saving children from a mad scientist.
Yep.
Monkey is a power up that turns him into a robot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look really closely at the robot, we'll leave it at that.
Yep.
Leave it at that for our Friday episode. Any last thoughts, Dio, before we get out of here?
All of your favorite shit from the 80s came from Japan. All your favorite shit from the 80s and the 90s was from Japan. There you go.
Let me remind people, Pokemon came from Japan.
Pokemon, which I'm playing Pokemon Sword on my brand new Nintendo Switch, and it's fucking awesome.
So next Monday, I expect a full review from you about Pokemon Sword.
Oh yeah, no, it's fucking fantastic. Already, it's to me, it's what I wanted Pokemon to be from the fucking first time that I had Pokemon Red. So yeah, like no issues. It's fucking great. It's kept me busy for like the past 5-6 days. And I'm not getting tired of it. So that's good. All of your favorite shit, Transformers, Japan.
Mm-hmm.
G.I. Joe, animations from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Also, most of the shit that you like was made just to sell toys.
I learned that lesson when I guessed it with the Nerdicons about the Transformers movie. When I realized that movie was strictly made to get rid of the old toys and bring in some new ones.
Yep. All of the Transformers stuff was like the shit wasn't taken off in Japan. So they were like, all right, make some anime. Boom. There you go. Fucking G.I. Joe. Hasbro did the same shit. Damn, we've been selling these fucking toys since 1960 something. There's a lull. All right, make some anime shit. Like that's how all the stuff went. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So there you go. Some fun facts with D&D.
I like that, fun facts, because that's something I actually did know. We don't have to worry about me not knowing that. And for those who want to go back and check the YouTube channel, please go back and check Friday's episode where we did a lot of Damian Doesn't Know. We talked about cryptozoology. We talked about a lot of random stuff that on the surface you may think is crazy, but it makes a lot of sense. But that is on the Damian G YouTube channel. Look it up, youtube.com, Damian G, and look up Damian and DEO. And you can find all of our catalog, including our old Highmark episodes with our former co-host, Kat.